and good evening. It's April 9th, 2026, and welcome to another one of our branches on the Vine with the Bible Project. Because we're going to be wrestling with some thoughts about this new series they're exploring. Are the Ten Commandments just rules? Because this series, right, it engages in a study of the instructions, rules, guidance, and wisdom that God gave us in the Torah. These videos, they're just the tip of an iceberg, though, right? We always need to remember that. They're part of a growing learning series I highly recommend. And of course, all of those can be found on the Bible Project's website and on their app. Both are linked in the description below. So welcome this evening as we begin this discussion of, are the Ten Commandments just rules? On the Dusty Feet. Our hope with the Dusty Feet is to foster discussion and to help build and support communities. If you are not already connected to a community or just want to share and interact, this community has 4 primary ways to interact. 1. TheDustyFeet.com. That's our primary place to find everything. You are always free to comment. 2. Substack. Link is in the description below. It's designed around the written and spoken text. It's a place to connect to ourselves and others. 3. Facebook at The Dusty Feet. These videos and other videos are also available for comment and discussion. 4. And as always, you're welcome to send an email to bob@thedustyfeet.com. These places, they will be moderated and guidelines will be set to ensure healthy, safe discussion. And as always on The Dusty Feet, this is a place where we can safely explore the endless ways of God and the interconnection of His creation. Belief understandings may be challenged, divine misunderstandings may exist, and traditional teachings might falter as we pursue connection, context, and community with God and each other here in an environment of grace and love. Oh, and of course, before we forget, if you do find these kinds of podcasts useful, please click that subscribe button. But those reminders, they just help you. But also, if you think these might be useful to others, that is when you click that like button, because it is how YouTube chooses to share these to more people if they wish. So it's interesting when I started this, right? Because something came to my mind just mentioning the 10 Commandments. Just the phrase, the 10 Commandments. It's going to bring up at least 100 different pictures. Probably more like 1,000. Because there's so much baggage attached to that phrase, it's going to make it difficult for us to actually talk about it. Yet I was really encouraged that the Bible Project chose to interact with this discussion of these instructions, right? Rules, guidelines, wisdom, and the law that we see, laid out in Torah. So I thought this would be a good, wonderful opportunity to introduce you to a series I think is really going to go, and it's just started. This is just the launch video. So we'll take a look at it. At the same time, then we can begin our discussion about this topic, about these 10 Commandments. But there's one thing I want to mention just to start. If it's possible, because even for me, it's not entirely not difficult to void yourself of preconceived notions, preconceived ideas, teachings, conditions, thoughts about these 10 Commandments. So let's try to let some of those things at least be willing to let go and listen. See if some of the things that we're going to talk about see if they might resonate differently than you thought before. Because to be fair, just like the Bible Project, I expect some pushback, and I'm aware, yet I really do believe this is a value for us to discuss amongst ourselves, to engage in these instructions that many have probably been told by somebody. Sometime they might have said, this has lost its relevance. Yet I think, especially in the world today, I think maybe revisiting this wisdom, maybe can make us consider things and offer us a different way to live. So to start, let's just take a listen to the Bible Project's introduction video for this series. Are the Ten Commandments just rules? Enjoy this.
We are going to talk about the 10 Commandments. These are the most well-known rules in the whole Bible. Maybe the most famous rules in all of human history.
Yeah, they are really famous. But if we take time to look deeper, what we're going to discover is that the 10 Commandments are actually not just rules.
Really?
Yeah, in fact, every command in the Bible is way more than a command.
What do you mean?
So let's think, for example, about the first time in the Bible that God tells anybody to do anything. It's what God says to humanity when he creates them in Genesis 1.
God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the land."
That's right. But notice it's not actually called a command. It's called a blessing. So this first command sets the tone for all of the commands to come. Every command in the Bible is an invitation to find life.
That's nice, but how? Right? Like, don't we need rules to tell us how to find life?
Sure, but rules only get you so far. I mean, what we really need is a way to discern between right and wrong and good and bad in any of life's complicated situations. And this is what the Bible calls wisdom.
Okay, how do I get wisdom?
Okay, so now we have to check out the second command in the story of the Bible. And what you see is it is all about a search for wisdom.
Okay.
So this is after God puts the human in the garden. In Genesis chapter 2, we read this.
Yahweh God commanded the human, saying, "From every tree of the garden you will surely eat."
Which, real quick, includes the tree of life.
Nice.
So enjoy the tree of God's own life that will never end.
Great. Eat up. I like this command.
But it continues.
But from the tree of knowing good and bad, you will not eat from it. For in the day that you eat from it, you will surely die. Okay, so there's a tree. It teaches good from bad, but don't eat it? What's going on?
Yeah, this story is super dense, and it's a riddle. It's inviting us to meditate on what is the command really all about. Now, let's turn the command over. There's actually two parts to this command. We have this negative command, not eating from the tree of knowledge, but notice that is matched or balanced by this positive invitation to eat from the tree of life. I mean, the whole premise is that all the trees look beautiful and good.
Yeah.
So how do I know the difference between the tree that will kill me and the tree that brings life? It is only because God's telling me.
Okay. So real wisdom comes from listening to God's voice, and that leads to life, instead of taking wisdom on my own terms, which leads to death.
Exactly. That's what the story is saying.
Okay.
And it's this story that is setting the stage for every command to come in the Bible. And there are a lot of commands coming in the Bible, like hundreds, rules and statutes and laws, but every one of them is actually just like this first command, which is an invitation to hear God's voice and find life. To do that, we have to meditate on the commands, turning them over and pondering how each one invites us to discover life and the wisdom of God within the command. This is actually what the author of one of the Psalms is trying to tell us.
How good is life for the one who delights in the Torah of the Lord, and on his Torah they meditate day and night.
Torah here means instruction and is often translated as law.
They will be like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season.
Yeah, this is so cool. So living by God's wisdom doesn't just mean that I get to eat from the tree of life. It's that I actually become a tree of life to others. It's inviting us to live in a radical and bold way that brings us life, but also shares that life with others.
Yeah. So this is the invitation with the 10 commands.
Yeah.
We get to meditate on them and find life.
Yes, yeah. And we can think of them as just a list of 10 rules, like a moral checklist. But if we take time to meditate on them, turn them over, we will discover there's a whole universe of wisdom and life in every single one of these most famous rules in the Bible.
thought so. What'd you think? I found it engaging. I did like it at the beginning, where John says, these are probably the most famous rules in the Bible. And he pauses and he kind of goes, well, probably the most famous rules in human history. I'd say yes. I would say they probably are, for some famous, for others infamous, for still others used for their purposes, and for others not so much. There's so many things I like about Tim Mackie. One of which is his approach to studying Hebrew scriptures. So part of it is that context matters, right? And beginnings matter. Because I have a feeling that when we think about the Ten Commandments, we don't often take the time to pause and ask, why do these instructions from God even need to be here? Why did they begin? And Tim brings us back to the beginning, which brings us back to Genesis, which brings us back to choices. Hold on. So, you know me, I penchant for making left-hand turns. So I'm going to throw out an idea, right? Most likely, we're not going to get to it today or who knows when. But since I've been in this series, I know that, you know me, I like to leave questions out so that when you come across things, we know things are going to need asking. And the analogy I like to use is to take that question, put it in a box, put a bow on it, put it on the shelf. Because when we're ready to address it, then we can pop that box off the shelf, open it up, talk about the question, then we'll see what happens. So here's that thought, that left turn. This is it. But it's that verse that Tim brings up in Genesis chapter 1, that verse 28, right? Because I ask a question about whether whoever's supposed to always be in the garden. Because in that particular instruction, this blessing that God wanted, right? He says, be fruitful, multiply, fill the land. And that land, well, as in, that's the space we call planet Earth, needs to be filled. And then in that text, if you continue on, it also needs to be managed. So here's our question. Take that question, we're going to stick it in a box. Were we actually supposed to eventually leave the garden to follow this, to fulfill, to obey this blessing from God, this instruction from God? Be fruitful, multiply, fill the land. That's my left turn. Take it, put it in the box, put it in the shelf. Let's move on. There's a point that Tim brings up, which I like, that every command in the Bible is an invitation to find life. And I think sometimes we need to truly understand, realize that this instruction, this guidance, this wisdom, that's what it's going to do. Invitation to life. But with it, it'll still come with do's and don'ts. There are going to be these little packaged pieces, right? This is how things should be done regarding this particular thing. Some things should be done regarding it. Some things should not be done regarding it. So I just think we need to keep that in mind. Keep in the back of our minds, right? Remember this as we walk through all of this. Because Tim and John bring up some engaging points. This invitation to find life. As they discussed, we need guidance. We need instruction. We need to learn how to determine what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad in all of life's situations. We will need the wisdom of someone to help us navigate these choices in life between right and wrong, good and bad, what will bless, what will curse. Because Tim mentioned this is what the Bible calls wisdom. I agree. It's about taking these rules, instructions, guidelines, and then applying them to everyday life. Them in their time, us in ours. You know, for me, in my personal life, right? My life experiences. So part of that, remember, I was a professional soccer referee. So within that, there were things that say I need to learn about being a referee. So part of that was understanding what we call the laws of the game, right? There's not a lot. The book is actually very skinny, right? It's really not thick at all because there's only 17 laws. So in the rudimentary breakout, there are a few emphasis points for each law that kind of serves as that beginning framework. But then after that, there are books, videos, discussion points, many, many classes and courses that now delve into how we actually live these 17 laws of the game on any given soccer pitch. Because the strange part about referees, right? My job, right, is to ensure that the game is played within this framework. These rules, they're not meant there to apply to a referee, although referees are in the rules, right? They are part of it. But the rest cover the field, uniforms. When an injustice has been noted, how to deal with that injustice. Because the wisdom of handling as you grow up, learning these instructions, learning these set of guidelines, these laws of the game, you wisdom of handling them and then living them on the soccer pitch, how we're going to address them, how we're going to approach life. Because in a child's game, it's going to be different. When you get to the teenage years, it's going to be a little different. It's going to be a little different when you get to those early adults, right? And then, of course, when you get to the pro level. Although to be fair, and I would agree, there's an entertainment value involved in that one, how those things play out even under those circumstances. Because what you grow into as a referee is the wisdom of how to make sure that these instructions, right, the same 17 laws, right, they're applied to that game that you're officiating on that day. And in that game, there's a core. You need to keep everybody safe. You have to keep the game in balance. You have to make sure that the players feel they're being heard, that egregious violations are handled with a feeling of justice. And then you can add to that how we do that within the framework of, say, in a pro game where we have entertainment, right? Because I would say entertainment versus normal life, that can be a little different. Wisdom comes with maturity. Wisdom comes with time. Wisdom comes with experience. Wisdom comes in learning from other people around you, their experience within whatever we're talking about. With this, their games and their life. So maybe we can talk about this when we're going this in that framework. We're going to use that as a thing, how we can work around that, see where it takes us, see what applies, see where it doesn't apply. Because I think there are points that I just mentioned, the sport, the framework, I think it's going to fit a lot. It won't work all the time, but I think sometimes we can see how it might work. Back to the video. I kind of want to mention right here, it's a good point to bring up their artwork, because I think their artwork is amazing. I think it's wonderful. They seem to change how they express themselves across these different series we've seen in the past, and really like that. And this artwork has many stark points to it, contrasts in the graphics, the little slashes through things within that very same graphic. Because we have that first graphic where they're talking about the choice in the garden, in that picture with an apple with that bite taken out, and it looks like a bit, and then there's a line through it, and then there's a skull, right? That diagonal line cuts through. Okay, hold on. Got another detour. Something to think about. Apples. We use apples because we choose to, right? It's 100% a choice because it never says apple. I know we branded it that way. We attach the meaning we've given it. And then when we see somebody else use or abuse that logo, right? They're using or abusing the association that we chose. We just need to remember what Scripture says, that it's just fruit. Could have been a pomegranate. So just want to make sure when we take pause sometimes, we need to realize it's just the graphic that we're used to seeing. Because we need to remember what is and what is not said as we go through the text in Scripture. Because sometimes, I think we accidentally fill in holes with our choices. We just need to remember that they are our choices. Okay? Is that fair? Okay, let's continue. So, I love that graphic with that split. And then he says that there are two parts in each of these instructions, or many of them anyways, and I think we're going to see that a lot. We're going to see instructions that are designed on one side, but as you break them down, I think as we begin to explore this, you're going to realize there's actually two parts. And I think within that, there are many layers to that. Because I think from the design of the humans to the instructions from God, they are all his design. And I think that split is part of the choice. And I really hope that the discussion you're going to have amongst yourselves about that, well, hope it has as many layers as well. So next week, or the next time, be 2 weeks, because we got Sons of the Father in between this, that will finish up the rest of that video, because there's more to ponder there, and some more scripture, Psalms and Deuteronomy, that we do want to talk about. It'll be interesting. So for tonight, thank you for being with us as we began this discussion with our first part of, are the Ten Commandments just rules? On the Dusty Feet.